Welcome to The Story. We're coming to you from the National Librarians Convention here in Portland. There are a lot of librarians here, more than 4,000, and it's not quiet at all. We wanted to come here to find out what makes librarians tick, what are they talking about, why do they get into the business, and what's the future hold? And we got a lot of good answers. The convention looks a bit like a typical business convention with lots of speakers. This one's talking about why libraries should use multiple languages.
It's going to be about 38% of the country is Hispanic or Latin origin in the next 20 to 30 years.
There's also vendor displays. This one specializes in independent authors and keeps an eye out for writers of color. So does Richard Ashby Jr. from the Pittsburgh Library.
I catalog independent author books, which you otherwise wouldn't find in a library because the major publishing houses just aren't publishing books from black and brown authors. And the narrative is we can't find them. But you don't go to the Waffle House to look for a steak dinner.
So the reality is you got to know where to look for them.
You got to know where to look for them.
And here's a fun fact. Richard said he's brought in 597 books from authors of color, and he discovered last week 125 of them are stolen, which is sort of a good sign.
So not only the books jumping off the shelves, they're walking out the door. No one's stealing Dr. Seuss. No one's stealing Judy Blume. They're stealing independent author books.
That's a sign of success, I guess.
That's a sign of success. I mean, this is the only field that when you're being robbed, you can say, I'm doing good.
Diversity is a big topic here, how to get more librarians who look like the public they serve, and how to get everyone using the library. Another big issue, digital access. COVID shut down many libraries, including the one Dr. Brandy McNeil works at in New York. She told me it was up and running online in 2 weeks.
Who does that help? That helps the people who have access. And so it's about making sure that there's a balance between in-person programming as well as virtual programming that will ensure that we can help all people. And if people don't have virtual, how can we help them to get access to that?
All right, and do you talk about books much?
Yes, we talk about books. I mean, tons of books. And one of the biggest things during the pandemic for us was people going to ebooks, and how can we still stay in contact with people? How can we still reach out to them? We still did book discussions. We still did story time, right? But it had a new platform that we needed to use in order to do that.
I think librarians are fascinating people. They wear tops that proudly proclaim they're a book nerd. Laura Fentress is here from Grand Island, Nebraska. Okay, is there anything in there, one particular thing that you heard that you're just like, wow, that is amazing?
Okay, this is going to sound really nerdy, but I went to a great session on data collection and management, and it makes me so excited to go back to work and start building some spreadsheets.
It's a gathering of smart, focused people, and they're thinking a lot about how the libraries can help their communities. It's intriguing for people like Addie Mathis, who grew up in Oregon City and now lives in California. She's here because she's thinking about leaving a career in healthcare to become a librarian.
I think one of the biggest things is how much work there is happening in public libraries around like social work and social justice, like the ways that libraries are partnering with different organizations to help support people who don't have houses or people who don't have access to different sorts of things. Like, it's so much more than just information.
Librarians at one time seemed to me to be kind of a boring crowd. They are certainly not. Who do you know who can talk seriously about the Dewey Decimal System with tattoos on their knuckles? Lindsay Mascotti from Denver can. If you're looking at tweaking the Dewey Decimal System, or is that pretty much set in stone?
It's pretty set in stone, but I know there are other systems who are using different systems, but I think libraries across the board like Dewey, and we're going to stick with Dewey. It's more of a librarian's tool than it is for the public, but we try to teach the public how to use it because it is pretty easy.
Really enjoyed my time there with the librarians. Hey, let's talk about body cameras for police. It's a no-brainer in many parts of the nation, and it's almost impossible to argue against using them. Still, some places like Portland lag behind, and it's not clear when officers will actually start wearing the cameras here. Other places like Camas are ready to go within the next week or so. Here's Tim Gordon with a look at their program.
Out on display for us inside the Camas Police Department. The first thing I asked longtime Camas Police Chief Mitch Lackey is how it feels to lead the way with body-worn cameras.
Feels good. I'm proud of the community, proud of our city council and mayor for finding a funding source, and I think the agency is excited that we can, make this happen.
These cameras made by Axon work in conjunction with tasers that it makes as well. Switch on the taser and the camera will automatically start rolling. Unholstering a firearm does the same thing. Lackey sees the added transparency as good for officers and the people they serve, who the chief says are supportive.
And if anything, it will just help them to feel that we're accountable back to the community by having these cameras. If there ever are questions about what transpired in an incident, it allows the community to see for themselves.
Just a few hours of final policy training starting next week, and the cameras will be used by officers rolling out on calls. Chief Lackey hopes the cameras will capture all the good he says his officers do in the community.
I think it's going to capture the 99.9% of the good police work that gets done out there every single day. And even those things that might not go perfect, I think it will help tell the story in context of what did happen and allow people to see for themselves.
Seeing for ourselves, a key theme here. It will also allow officers to learn from what they and their colleagues record. We asked the chief to test his gear today.
Are you able to turn it on and record us in our conversation?
Absolutely. It's just as simple as 2 touches. The camera's on and it's recording right now. So in its field of vision, it will capture you, probably the clock on the wall behind you. These are all the videos. These are the 2 we just made.
A big part of the investment covers 5 years of the body camera company storing the thousands of video clips to come and managing redacting as needed for public records requests. So again, the body cameras start rolling out in Camas next week. In the meantime, Vancouver police are still working on their plan and program to hopefully have body cams to officers sometime later this year. And the Clark County Sheriff's Office, well, their program is delayed because voters denied funding last November. Pat?
Portland has a long and tortured history of trying to bring body cameras to the city's police force. As of right now, they still do not have them. Let's take a look at how we got here. So why don't Portland police wear body cameras? Well, it's a long story. How'd we get here? In the fall of 2014, a federal judge urged the city of Portland to put cameras on its officers, even though the U.S. Justice Department did not require it back then. The mayor at the time, Charlie Hales, said, sure. The Bureau even set aside money and held some community hearings to get ideas. By 2015, things seemed to be on cruise control. The Oregon legislature passed a bill that created a statewide standard for body camera usage, and Portland City Council put aside more than $830,000 to put even more cameras in police cars. And the city pledged another $1.6 million to fund the program through the next fiscal year. Then, another year and a different mayor later, things hit a snag. Mayor Ted Wheeler questioned if the project was feasible and asked the Police Bureau for a detailed plan, including how much the cameras would actually cost. The police chief at the time, Mike Marshman, summed it up by saying, "That's in a nutshell why we don't have body cameras today." But fast forward to January of 2019, and there was another opportunity. Portland Police formed a team to finally come up with that detailed plan the mayor had wanted to see. And in February 2019, the city held listening sessions. A year later, in early 2020, then Chief Jamie Resch said she supported body cameras and hoped to see a pilot program in the future. But once again, the plan hit a snag because the COVID pandemic blew out the city's budget, and the body camera pilot project was one of many things that ended up on the chopping block. Last year, City Council had more money on hand and passed funding for cameras again. They're now having vendors bid on a $2.6 million contract, which will cover both a pilot program and full implementation. However, things are still stalled because the city is still trying to hash out some details with the police union. The main issues: when and how the video will be released, and if officers will be able to watch it before writing their reports. And that's how we got here. We get a lot of requests for the KGW Vault. Tonight, we're going to take you down into our archives to show you what they actually look like. I think we need to go into the older, deeper part of the vault, and why we can't always find every moment in history that we hope we have. I'll bet there's some awesome stories on here. When the story continues. Welcome back. Keep sending us your emails and leaving us your voicemails. I wanted to bring you down into the KGW Vault. I think it's one of the largest and best videotape vaults anywhere in the state of Oregon. We have years and years and years of stories saved down here on our videotape. And part of the reason we're here is because we got an email from Twyla who said, "Do you have any footage from the vault about children walking in the dark going to school during the winter of 1973-74 when daylight savings time was kept year-round as an energy-saving measure during the OPEC oil embargo?" Well, Twyla, thank you so much for asking. Let's take a look. We don't have a full-time librarian down here, so sometimes I just come down and start pulling tapes and looking through it. And this one's from 1991. Has a lot of cool stories on it, but not anything that we're looking for right now. So for what we're looking for, I think we need to go into the older, deeper part of the vault. Back here in the corner, in the dark, here's one. This looks like this is from 77 to 79. Still, 77 is not going to be quite old enough. Darn it. We might not. 3/26/77 to 4/8/77. Great stories on there, I'm sure. Now, we do have some very special film around here. This is from July 10th of 1971. It's going to take a little while to find out what images are on here, and this is the wrong year, I know. So we do have lots of really old footage, and our real librarian, Paul Kinney, has gone through here and he's already told me he can't find anything from that daylight saving time. But we do have some great archive stuff in here. The mid-70s were a wild time, especially with the oil embargo. It affected a lot of our lives. Chris Sadehide from our sister station in Dallas has a look back.
Supply issues and international conflict.
World wars among big powers are quite possible to control dwindling oil supplies.
Just like it did in 1973, when an OPEC oil embargo led to an international shortage and rocked the global economy.
In the Dallas area today, dealers raised prices to more than 40 cents a gallon.
Yes, kids, that was a lot. But a federal government price cap kept the prices down, yet created a whole new set of problems, like rationing and an industry shutting down, unable to turn a profit.
But you will go up when you get the word.
Yes, sir, I definitely will.
Another idea to save gas, just drive slower.
And many Dallas motorists agree that it's going to take a decrease in speed in order to slow down the energy crisis.
The city of Dallas even considered regulating it.
City Manager George Schrader has urged the City Council to reduce speed limits from 60 to 50 miles an hour.
It all sounds like a great plan, until you have to be somewhere.
Are you willing to slow down to 50 miles an hour? No. Why not? Because it's stupid, you know, and I just missed the light.
But if you think this current pain at the pump hurts, the one back in the 70s not only threatened our wallet, it threatened our football.
If the fuel crisis gets worse and a ban on Sunday driving is put into effect, this is what Texas Stadium might look like.
A Sunday ban on driving was considered like some European countries did. But what would that do to the NFL?
If the National Football League were forced to move to Saturday, it would mean a total blackout of all professional football.
Cowboys GM Tex Schramm said the league couldn't broadcast during college football Saturdays. So the other option?
I don't think our game would be very attractive being played before an empty stadium.
The NFL playing in empty stadiums, an unimaginable idea. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's right. In Dallas, I'm Chris Sadehide.
Let's continue with this blast from our past with a bit of our own history. And we're going way back. 100 years ago today, KGW had its first radio broadcast in Portland. Some of you probably remember KGW AM. It was a radio station before we were a TV station, and it was part of the Oregonian Publishing Company at the time. KGW hit the airwaves March 25th, 1922, broadcasting from the Oregonian Building Tower at 6th and Alder. It doesn't exist anymore. The first broadcast featured Portland Mayor George Baker, as well as an opera singer and a novelist. Unfortunately, we don't have any audio from that. All the KGW radio archives were lost in a terrible fire back in 1943. Bummer. However, we did find the front page of the Oregonian from that day in 1922, and the radio station launch made the front page. Check out that headline. Grand opera start to sing into radio. The Oregonian station to be christened. Just for fun, let's take a look at some of the other front page stories from that day. Here's the headline: Bulgarian cabinet rows over alphabet. That means fights. It reads, 2 members of the cabinet resigned yesterday as a result of the difference in the ministry over the government's determination of eliminating 3 letters from the Bulgarian alphabet. Oh, imagine. Not sure why that made the front page in Portland, but I do feel for journalists on a slow news day. There's also the headline, youthful elopers caught by police. Oh my goodness. And you've got to hear the lead for this one. Love's young dream blushes, faded to a sickly prison pallor, and roses withered to a grim wraith, languished in Portland City Jail last night. Don't you wish we still wrote the news like that? Yeah, me neither. Do you have any ideas for the KGW Vault? That story you just saw came from a viewer. Thank you very much for sending that idea to us. Let us know if you have ideas or thoughts or comments. We really do want to hear from you. Send us an email to thestory@kgw.com or give us a call. Leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Now, when we come back, we'll take a look at one of the best pivots we've seen in a long time. How Oregon Congressman Kurt Schrader dodged part of a question he did not like when asked by our own Laurel Porter on Straight Talk. We'll break it down right after this. Oregon's primary election is less than 2 months away now. We've been focusing on the governor's race, but there are also some big races in our congressional districts. So we're keeping our eye out for candidates who pivot when they're asked questions. Let me explain what a pivot is. It's easiest to imagine if you think of basketball. When I ask someone a question, it's like passing the ball to them. If they answer the question directly, it's like they pass it back to me. But with the pivot, I pass them the ball in the form of a question they don't like, and instead of passing the ball back to me, they pivot and then pass the ball somewhere else. So instead of answering the question they don't like, they simply change the question to something they do like, even though that's not what I asked. In my 37 years as a reporter, I have found the people who do that the most are politicians. Tonight's pivot involves Oregon Congressman Kurt Schrader. He's running for re-election in the state's 5th district, which looks a lot different after redistricting. Laurel Porter talked to him this week on Straight Talk and asked him about some moves he's made in the stock market and whether he would support a ban on immediate family members as well as members of Congress from trading stock. Listen to how he pivots away from the family members portion.
Well, Business Insider ran a story about some of your stock trading, that you sold up to $30,000 worth of shares in Charter Communications and insurance giant AON PLC last year, but you didn't disclose the sales by the required deadline, and that you're one of 55 congressional members who violated Congress's Stock Act. Now, there's proposed legislation sponsored by Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley that would ban federal lawmakers and immediate family members from trading stocks. Do you support that legislation?
I support not having members be able to trade stocks. When I first came to Congress, Laurel, I gave that up. I have an independent financial advisor that does all the stock trading for me. I have no idea what's going on in there. I get a report just like everyone else does at the end of the month. And apparently they screwed up and did not report that Charter trade in time. We went ahead and as soon as we found out, made the correction like many other legislators do. If you try, and with the Stock Act, if you try and game the system, you get caught. I had a colleague of mine from New York that was inside trading. He's in jail right now. We can do more, and I've made sure that there's no undue influence on any of my votes as a result of my own stock investments. That's done by someone else, and I have nothing to do with it.
Well, I have a couple questions about that. I mean, why wouldn't you want to know more if something is going on that looks like it's violated the Stock Trade Act? And will you sign on to this legislation from Senator Merkley? It's different than the Stock Act. It's the Ban Conflicted Trading Act. Why not sign on to that legislation if you want to be tough on trading stocks?
Well, I'll take a look at it. Sounds good to me. From the way you describe it, I have not actually seen that particular legislation. But as I said, the main thing I think for viewers to know is that I have not actively engaged in any stock trading since I came to the United States Congress.
Well, let me tell you about this other act that is coming from Senator Merkley. It would hold lawmakers to tighter standards and prevent top congressional officials from making money off their positions, even if these moves may not be considered insider trading. Shouldn't voters feel like that you won't be influenced by your decisions on how it would benefit you financially? So what's wrong with going ahead and signing that Merkley legislation?
Well, if that's what it does, I'm a yes.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing you sign on to that.
Did you hear the pivot? He said he's fine with having himself restricted from insider trading while totally sidestepping the idea of his immediate family also being kept from trading stocks. And for that, I'm pleased to award Congressman Kurt Schrader with our Pivot of the Day Award. Congratulations, sir. And for anyone who thinks we're picking on him because he's a Democrat, we're not. We hand these out to people on both sides of the aisle. You can watch the rest of Laurel's interview with Schrader on Straight Talk at 7 o'clock tonight. She also spoke with his primary challenger, Jamie McLeod Skinner. We also want to remind you about this week's Hey Help campaign. We're asking you to donate to the KGW Great Food Drive. Your generous donations have already helped raise more than 1.2 million meals. Our new goal is 1.5 million, and there's still time to donate. One easy way to make a donation is at any Safeway. You'll be given a dollar amount at the checkout. You could also see the ways to donate, or if you need assistance, by visiting kgw.com/fooddrive. We also want to thank Pacific Office Automation, local Toyota dealers, Rivermark Community Credit Union, and Safeway for supporting this year's food drive. Keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com. When we come back, some good news, and we can finally say what happened to Maggie Vespa, what her new job is, right after this. It's Friday. Thank heavens it's Friday. Let's start a wrap up on a positive note. Well, I was at the Librarian convention. I asked Julio Velasquez from Dallas what his good news is.
So for me, it's being able to be here at this conference. You know, I'm a public librarian from Texas, and so this is always a great conference to come to because it teaches us a lot more about what resources we can use to help our communities, whether it's folks who are experiencing homelessness or families or what have you. And so this is a great way for us to get together, consolidate our resources, talk to each other, share stories, and then take that back home and help as many people as we can.
Yeah, good for you. Hey, before we go, let's read one last viewer email. Annette wrote, "Love Pat Doris." Thank you, Annette, on the story. But we're told Maggie Vespa would let us know where she would be going. Please don't leave us hanging. We just want to know that she's following her dreams and doing well. Well, Annette, we can finally reveal it. She is following her dreams and doing well. She's the former host of this show. On Monday, Maggie starts as a correspondent for NBC News, based out of Chicago. She's now a network reporter. She will be reporting all the network's platforms and shows. We couldn't be happier for Maggie for this huge career move. We can't wait to see what she does at NBC. A huge congratulations to Maggie. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks for watching. But remember, the story, our story, that never ends. I'll see you Monday.
This is KGW News.